with you this evening after a wonderful day. And I'll tell you, some of us started our day at the Hispanic Heritage Festival that was on Allison Hill and was organized by El Hack and that wonderful Gloria Merrick that we all know. And it was a wonderful time. We enjoyed so much wonderful music, food, and just good camaraderie among people. And I don't know about you, but I just revel in being able to learn about other cultures, learn about other people, and just share the kind of family joy that was there. So I want to salute Gloria and El Hack and our Latino friends and neighbors as we get started on our 2021 annual Peace Symposium. And the reason why I wanted to bring that to your attention tonight is because tonight we are celebrating diversity of cultures in our region, right here in central Pennsylvania. And you know, we can start with the World Affairs Council of Harrisburg right in our own board of directors, because we're a diverse group. And for those of you who don't know me, I am Joyce Davis, and I'm the president and CEO of the World Affairs Council of Harrisburg. And I am blessed, truly blessed, to be having the support of a wonderful group of people on our board of directors, many of whom you will hear tonight. So before we delve into what we're here for, which is to basically pay tribute to recent immigrants who've come to our region, we have decided, listen, we all know you can't have peace without justice, right? So in this, we're going to do justice and pay tribute to those people who have come to our region from afar and who have made a difference and are continuing to make it a difference. We are calling this Coming to Pennsylvania: Stories of Struggle, Perseverance, and Hope. And we have assembled, I think, people from so many different countries. But before I do that, I want to ask each one who's checking in with us, have you been vaccinated? Listen, we are unabashed in telling you that you need to help us fight COVID-19. And the way to do that is to get vaccinated if you can. If you're over 12, you should be talking to your doctor about getting vaccinated. We have partnered with Temple University Harrisburg to try to start a campaign, a grassroots campaign, to speak to our brothers and sisters, those who are still hesitant, to say, I got vaccinated, you should too. So with that, thank you, Temple, for really spearheading this really campaign so that we can save lives. So with that, let's get into why we're here. We are here to celebrate our diversity and particularly to celebrate people who've come to our region recently. And I think you all know why we want to do that. There's so much hoopla about what's going on in our people. These folks who come are helping us. They are contributing to our society. So with that, I am going to now introduce who's the person who's going to be our keynote speaker. And our keynote speaker is Tom Sideris. He is a Greek journalist, and he has done a series of documentaries. Actually, he's making a name for himself around the world. He's working at the Greek Broadcasting Corporation. His name was on the short list for 2 years in a row for the Prix Europa Prize. It's a special EU prize for the best journalist in Europe. I'm not there, so he can have that prize. But he has been also honored by us with the Torch Award. And why did we want to hear from Tom Sideris? Because Tom, actually partnering with our friend, our board member, Saeed Onal, has made it his life's work to document human rights abuses around the world. Because the only way we can do something about what's going on is if we know about it, right? And Tom has done that. And his work has even brought him to the United States to document, yes, the abuses that have existed against African Americans. And he has produced a film called Let Me Breathe, that if you have not seen it, you should see it. And we are going to provide an opportunity to show that film very shortly again. But with that, I'm going to now allow we have a taped remark for him, videotaped. He is on the line with us, but because it's so late in Greece, which is where he is now, we decided to not take any chances and to have him on film. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Candace, who is going to let her roll with Tom Sedaris, our dear friend and great journalist.
First of all, good evening to everyone from Athens. I would like to thank the World Affairs Council of Harrisburg to participate in the annual Peace Symposium in Pennsylvania. Really, it's a very big honor for me. Especially, I would like to say a great thank to Joyce Davis, my dearest colleague and one of the best journalists in the world. My speech today based on 5 different topics, and I will try to analyze all of them up to 15 minutes. The first topic is human rights and global peace and security. I'm sure that you understand that global peace and security could not be existed without respect on human rights. And from the other side, when the peace and global security are threatened, then the human rights are threatened too. In war zones, the lives of weak and defenseless people are under threat and in danger. We can see what happens now in Afghanistan under of the Taliban regime. The women, the students, the homosexual people, people with a different culture, with a different religious expression, with a different political thought. When a state uses the army or police violence to control people for social peace, it has no result. The violence and the social peace are absolutely 2 different things. I would like to think together this. Why states to choose the violence instead the tolerance and the social dialogue? An authoritarian regime cannot see the citizens as human beings with fundamental rights. An authoritarian regime don't see citizens but a mob who could threaten its omnipotence. It's a cycle. The state violence and the violation of human rights turn on the social explosion. The human story is repeated and the cycle is continuously closed. The violence brings violence. In that point, I would like to return back in Afghanistan. There was a deeply divided country, without basic education, without rights for big social groups. There was poverty. The people suffered for many, many years. In this situation, we can't discuss for human rights in the country. In this situation where the chaos replaces the social connections, is born the terrorism. The terrorist groups using hate speech for another people or social groups. They promote dark policies and aims, policies from the hell, in order to have an access in public dialogue. You can see the respect of human rights and the global peace are connected each other. The second topic is why I seek to tell the stories of people who are suffering and oppressed around the world. Believe me, it's a very difficult question, and I am sure that there isn't only one answer. I grew up in a very poor neighborhood at the edge of the city of Piraeus, the biggest port at the Mediterranean Sea. My family, it was poor too. My father was a worker in a shipyard and he hadn't everyday work. There were days that the food was less than other times. Yes, we did not have to eat lunch or dinner. Once I remember, I asked my mom why you cooked only potatoes. Where is the meat? I love the beef with red sauce, a sauce with fresh tomatoes. And yes, I prefer the fried potatoes. But, dear friends, that day my mom cooked only potatoes without meat, and that it was pained my soul. I can't forget it. A few months later, my father was sick and he lost his job. So my family had nothing, only a very poor home. When I was 17 years old, I faced an important health problem. Uh, the first time I felt so bad, I want to die. I'm not ready to speak about it yet, but I'm working on it. So I had two choices, to continue or to stop. My childhood wasn't easy, and now new problems in front of me could destroy all my dreams for my life. I decided to continue. I'm a strong man. In the absolute dark, I will find a light. It's the first time in my life that I say all of these things, and I thank you, Joyce, for the opportunity to speak public for me and for my work. So I had a difficult adolescence and the same difficult adulthood. Another topic is that all of these years I grew up between refugees and immigrant families. Refugees from Minor Asia in 1922 and immigrants from other Greek cities who came to capital in order to find a job. I grew up with Turkish traditional songs with Greek lyrics, with the pain of people who lost a homeland after the Smyrna disaster. These people faced as enemies from the Greek natives and remained enemies forever. Without to realize absolutely, I was with the same side, with the defenseless people, the people who haven't homeland, who are foreigners for all their life. For me, I had one and only way to defend the human rights for all the people who are unprotected or felt that belongs in the dark side of moon. All of these problems which I faced changed the way of my thinking. I love the people not with a metaphysical love, but with a real and unlimited love. So I create documentaries with humans for humans, true stories of people who have an opportunity to narrate the story of their life. In the center of my interesting, in the center of my filmic world, there are the human rights of the people who are suffering for different reasons. The third topic is what was motivated me to document the Black Lives Matter movement in the United States. And finally, how is it similar to other human rights issues around the world? First of all, the last movement was different than others at the past. Most recently, has spearheaded demonstrations worldwide protesting police brutality and systematic racism that affects the Black community. I can feel, no, I feel as a Black man in Harlem. I'm a Black man in New Orleans. I grew up in a house nearly to Joy's house. I remember the Ku Klux Klan out of my school with placard. Out of our school, the blacks or the schools are only for the whites. I remember a policeman that hit me in the head, a barber who refused me to enter in his shop, the driver of the bus who told me to get out. You are a black and you should not be here. No, the documentary, it isn't at all. The documentary is the truth, the personal truth, the truth of the director or of the researcher. First of all, you have to learn and after to be one of them. You have to share experiences, pain, emotions. I have educated the theories about racism. My PhD is related to ghettos at Nazi extermination camps. The ghettos is common either are in an European country, either are in the American South, and the racism too. The territories of the displacement people based on the common theory and have a common logic. The main principles of racism were leading millions of blacks in prisons and death. The same theories were leading millions Jews in crematoriums. You know, there was a placard in the parks of Prague during 1939. No entrance for the Jewish children. This placard is from Nazis. The same placard was in a park in Harlem. No entrance for blanks. The racism is the same everywhere, and my documentary says this exactly. I am an European investigative journalist. Europe paid a very big blood tax to the Nazis. The same blood tax is paid from the blacks in the US. It's the same theory and the same tactic. The fourth topic is if investigative journalism can change things. I would say yes. It can't change everything, but it can create a different environment, a different atmosphere, a different glance to the way we're thinking and seeing the others and the world. It isn't easy. Nothing is easy in this world, but the journalist must give voice to people living in the background. I love to talk with anonymous people. I'm not looking for professional opinions or opinions from politicians, professors, etc. I'm looking for exciting testimonies, deeply human testimonies, testimonies for the pain and the happiness of ordinary people. I want to film the fight of people to change the reality, people who want to turn the world upside down, people who don't accept their destiny, people who believe to the dreams, people who are telling yes to the life, people who made the possible possible. This is my work, and I'm near to those people. I'm not afraid for my life. I only believe in justice. And finally, the fifth topic. Every new film is a new challenge, an amazing trip with unknown destination. About my new film in US, I know the main topics, but everything depends on my producer. Setonal, my best friend, it's up to you. At this time, I'm working with two Afghan journalists on the project with the title Kites over Kabul, far away from the streets of Kabul. It's oral testimonies from Afghans who live in different places around the world, people who succeeded to escape from the hell. Among them is Reza Golami, an Afghan refugee who is living now in Athens and has a daughter, 9 months. Elsa is her name. The project is dedicated to Elsa because the life wins every time the death. The story of Reza is a very emotional story. He lost his mother when he was 10 years old. He was the youngest child in his family. Because there was poverty during the civil war in Afghanistan, Reza decided to move in Pakistan. On the borderline, Afghanistan-Pakistan, he saw the ISIS soldiers raping a 16-year-old girl and then decapitating her father. After that, they fried the head in a saucepan. Reza stayed in Pakistan for 3 years. He worked in a tailor shop and then returned to his homeland. But then the Taliban were in government. He decided to go to Iran, where his brother lived. In Iran, he felt victim to exploitation to racism. After 2 years, decided to go to Europe. First, he passed the Turkish border and he stayed for a short interval to Istanbul. He was a typical victim of human traffickers. Reza became an adult man during the long refugee trek. For this story and for all my research about Afghan refugees, I am candidate for third time for the Best European Investigative Journalist Pre-Europa Award, a European Union organization. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for listening to me. Joyce, you are a great journalist and a great moderator. Dear friends, good evening from Athens.
Well, that was wonderful. That was really wonderful and so inspiring. I am so happy that we were able to have Tom Sedaris as our keynote speaker. And as you can see, he is absolutely devoted to wherever he finds an issue, to delving into that. And we are so grateful that he decided to delve into the issue of what's happening to Black people and Black Lives Matter, but also to look at issues like what Afghanistan, which is, we're going to hear from an Afghan immigrant to our region, a refugee, and we are expecting more Afghans to come to our region as well. So let me do this. Now we're going to move into talking to, I want to thank again, Tom. And Tom, Efharistoparapoli, okay? I did live in Greece for 2 years, and so I was able to pick up a little bit, but we are so privileged to have him. Let's move on now, and I'm going to ask each one of our speakers now to restart their videos, just to click on it so that we can see you. We did them all so we could, we turned off the videos so that we could pay attention to Tom, but now you can restart your videos for those who will be speaking. And our first speaker now, as we start looking at immigrants, people who have come to our region from different parts of the world, we are now going to turn to ask one of our dear board members, Said Onal, who has worked very, very closely, actually, with Tom Sedaris on many of the documentaries that he's doing. We're going to ask Said if he would come now and if he would offer us the first glimpse, the first perspective of what it's like to come to Central Pennsylvania, why you came to Central Pennsylvania, really what was the experience like, and if you have any thoughts about how you would advise others when they come. So turn it over to you. Go right ahead.
Dr. Joyce, that has been my question in my whole life too.
Mehdi,
yes.
It's Said's turn. He's going to talk right now. Okay, I'll get to you. All right, go ahead, Said.
I will turn my the mic to Mehdi anytime. He's a better speaker than me. Any day of the week. Anyway, thank you so much again. We appreciate this gathering. Peace Symposium has a lot of meaning because all the people from different cultures and backgrounds come to America. There are many different reasons, but there's one goal, to better themselves, ourselves, and our families, a better future for our children. My story in early '90s, Turkey had the country that I come from. Where I was born and raised until 24 years old. Was in Turkey, and there was opportunities for me to teach at a college back in Turkey. So there was a nationwide entry exam. They selected students who shows interest and success to come back and do their PhD and go back and teach in their country. So that was my main reason. I came to America for higher education with my wife and with a lot of hopes in our heart. So we were going to go back and teach at the university that gave me the scholarship. But Turkey, if you follow the democracy and human rights and rule of law, last 100 plus years, Turkey has a lot of ups and downs. Every 10 years or so, this democracy, so-called democracy in Turkey, is threatened by either military or other forces, really, that cannot handle equal rights for everybody. So this struggle has been, happening, and the waves. In one way, it got me to America for higher education, but then another wave kept me in America because I was really another military intervention in late 90s made me to decide to quit my scholarship and my dream to get my PhD. So stay in America, get a job, and raise my children where they don't need to know people to become something. That was my story in Turkey. A lot of people, countries like Turkey, come from, I exaggerate maybe sometimes, but it's truth. Even you want to pay your taxes, you have to know someone. So it is not the way that I want to raise my children. And that me and my wife, we decided to stay here. And since then, early 90s, we've been in America. The only thing I knew about America, other than the movies, was Philadelphia 76ers, which was something that I followed. And I came to Philadelphia for my higher education. And since then, I moved many different parts of Pennsylvania and now settled down in Lancaster. And I enjoy my freedoms that I have been able to get. And the contribution back to the community is my key. I think, many people, as I said, is it economical reason or freedom reasons or education reason, whatever reason we come here, we want to make this place home and embrace it and give back. One of the things that I never wanted to do is be in between person. I am here, I'm part of this community, and I need to be living in this community. I cannot have a rental lifestyle. I have to own it. So freedom, democracy, rule of law, these are all important issues. And people who were born and raised in America, maybe they don't see this as we do from other countries, that when you lose those, then you understand the value of it. So and this can happen to anybody, really, if you don't have those institutions and really true love for democracy and dedication, it is difficult to keep it going on. So my advice to newcomers, don't live in between, don't live in a rental life, own your life in America. Pennsylvania, central Pennsylvania has been a great home for me and my 2 kids and my wife. We enjoy it, we do the best out of it. But then again, we live here. Again, our dreams are to make America better for everybody, including ourselves. So that's number one. Number two is do never forget your struggling brothers and sisters back home. Because one of the things that we can actually maybe send back, not only just greeting cards and maybe money to help them out, or just prayers, but teach people what is to stand for democracy, human rights, and rule of law. So this is what I can say. I'm happy that I had the opportunity to come and stay here. But the reason I came and the reason I stayed are two different things, but it comes at the end. The reason I am here where I am, I chose to be a Pennsylvania resident, an American. Of course, America chose me too, but again, this is a decision we made, and we are proud of this. So thank you, Joyce. Hopefully this will help the peace in the community.
Well, thank you. And I will, just so you'll know, Saeed is a very successful businessman here. He hires people, so he creates jobs in our community. But not only that, the guy has a big heart. I remember when I worked with the mayor's office and we were looking for people to help us distribute food for people during Thanksgiving. He and his friends from the Red Rose organization, the Turkish community, came and brought, I don't know how many turkeys, but it was a bunch of turkeys that we brought to people throughout Harrisburg. I will never forget that. And not only did they provide those turkeys from Turkey, but they themselves came to help distribute them. They put the work into it. It wasn't just, oh, here's some money. They brought their hearts and souls into this. And our community, you have truly been a blessing, Saeed, and including to the World Affairs Council. So people should know that you have made a difference, and your friends have made a difference as well.
Thank you, Joyce.
Absolutely. All right, well, let's move on. We have someone else that we're going to hear from, and this young lady that we're about to hear from now is truly incredible. I have met women all over the world, and I really have, because I've traveled everywhere, and this young lady stands out. And I've actually visited her native land, but I'm going to let her talk about how she's here and why and what she's gone through. So Hajar Al-Sheikh, can you join us, please?
Hi, Joyce, and hello, everyone. Thank you, first of all, for having me. And it's my honor to share my journey. And in that short period that we're going to speak, I hope after you finish listening to all of us, you will have a different respect and understanding to the people around you. And it doesn't have to be just for refugees, but anyone that looks different than you, speak different than you, or even have a different way of living, either it's culture, religion, or sexual orientation. We are a welcoming country, and I am proud to say I am a Sudanese American. I immigrated here. I came as a refugee June of 2001, right before the September 11. So that was not a good start. Anyway, I was a torture survivor. I was, and I'm still an activist, a woman rights activist. And I was the spokesperson for the Democratic Forefront, or the Democratic Party, during my high school and college. And I was tortured, detained, and almost faced death in Sudan. And for those who don't know the region, they can do some research and learn about al-Bashir regime, the dictatorship regime, and what they used to do for anyone that opposed them and their vision or their way of thinking. I was able to go to Egypt with the help of the UN, and I stayed there basically homeless, without a job. It's a long story. And the one thing that I remember every day when I walk to the IOM building and look at that whiteboard to see if my name was there or not. That was the hardest thing, the wait, because you don't know what you're going to eat the next day. You don't know what's going to happen to you, until I saw my name and I was accepted to enter the United States. I came to Philadelphia, and from that day, I decided that I am not going to waste the second chance in life that I got, and I'm going to show that I can do better. I can do better for myself, my community, and everyone around me. And I've been working since 2001, went to school, started my own company, started a nonprofit organization, and I'm in different board of trustee with HAC, CWS. I was able to go back to the same organization that actually helped me to resettle here, and they resettle refugees and help them here, the CWS. And I am board of their trust, member of their board of trustee. So that's another organization you guys can look into to give back to the people that help us become who we are today. I think one of the questions that you ask is, how did I come to Pennsylvania? Just like Saif said, it wasn't a choice. My sister was here before me. So finding someone to sponsor and keep me the first few months, that made it easy for my settlement to go fast, to be settled here. So Pennsylvania chose me, and I'm honored to love it back and to be part of it. What else? There's a lot that I can talk about. But
I know, Hagar, one of the things that just so impressed me is that how courageous, how determined you were in your own country not to let wrongdoing or injustice go without a voice of opposition. you were that voice of opposition, but it cost you so much. I mean, I remember you're describing your being actually at one point beaten by men. And but yet you kept speaking up.
that was more than one time. I had few times the near-death experience. I was hung from a tree. I was beating until I couldn't even feel anything no more. And you know, that's pretty much what is going on over there. And you have the choice of either stopping and deciding to just quit, or to keep going. And my decision was to keep going and to keep fighting so I can see a better tomorrow for myself and my family. And you know, I'm glad that the Sudanese revolution happened during my lifetime, and I was able to see that beautiful change of power. Sudan is still struggling right now, but hopefully they're going towards the right direction, or heading towards the right direction. My greatest obstacles being here in Pennsylvania as a newcomer, learning a new culture, trying to understand the accent, like the language. We knew like I studied with English in Sudan. We knew the writing, the reading, the British accent, but I did not know or understand the American accent. So that was one of the hardest things that I had to go through, besides learning a whole new culture, starting from zero, and just finding your way. It is really, really a struggle. If any one of you can imagine just moving to a new house, how hard that experience to them. Now, put that in the sense of someone who is leaving all that known to face the unknown, leaving everything that they knew, their family, and starting over in a whole new place. The fear, anything, all those emotions that come through you and make you feel like, make you question if you made the right decision or not. But the other choice will be facing death. The other choice will be going through hell, a lot of trouble, more than what you can do to learn and become a member in a new society. I can't stress this enough. You said if I have one advice for newcomers, learning the language. I cannot stress that enough. Learning the culture, trying to know your neighbors, try to know where you can go get some help, how you can start, how you can get a job, how you can advance in life. And once you have that, you'll be able to give back, and you'll be able to become a responsible and a giving part of the society. And Joyce, I am so grateful for you being in this world and for you being in my life, and I'm thankful for everyone attending, listening, or speaking tonight.
Well, Hajar, we love you. We really do. You're an inspiration. You're truly an inspiration to all of us. And your point about moving into a place where you don't know anyone, but that's why it's so important for us to welcome you, those people who have good hearts, to say you belong here. This is now your home. All right. Great.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So now we're going to move on and hear from someone I have come to truly admire, respect, and who's actually quite a contributor to the World Affairs Council of Harrisburg. Bami Bakare is with us now. Bami, would you join us on camera?
Hi, Joyce.
Hello, Bami.
Hello, fellow panelists. This is truly a pleasure, and I'm not sure why I should follow Hajar, because my story is going to be so boring compared to what we just heard.
Don't say that.
So I just want to thank you so much for this opportunity to speak to the Harrisburg community. My husband and I came here, like Said and his wife, for higher education purposes. I had visited America in the late 70s, and I truly just fell in love with the United States. While I was in secondary and high school in Nigeria, that's where I was born and raised in Lagos, Nigeria. I had always, America had this, from the outside then, of just generosity of spirit. That's what America was known for at the time. And it just had this appeal as a very, very welcoming environment. The first city I visited in America was New York City, and I was just fascinated with the buildings, especially Wall Street. So by the time I came here, I already had a law degree from Nigeria. So there was no doubt in my business that, in my mind, that I wanted to understand the American business culture, because it turned out that while in Nigeria, a lot of companies that we thought, because we were colonized by the British, we just assumed everything was British, only to get here and find out that a lot of major companies were actually American companies. So I made up my mind that I wanted to have an MBA from an American institution. So my husband and I lived in Washington, D.C. for our first 7 years here. I was doing my MBA at American University, and he was at Howard. 7 years later, we ended up in central Pennsylvania, and it was just job related. He finished his residency, and the chairman of his department said, there's this hospital in Harrisburg, they're looking for an OBGYN, you would be the perfect fit. And he just came home and said, the department head has a position for me in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. I'm like, where? I'm happy being in Washington, D.C. What is Harrisburg? So anyway, we ended up here. This is where my two oldest kids were born in D.C., but they were both raised here. The first few years, I think Said mentioned this a little bit, the first few years from Washington, D.C. to Harrisburg was a little bit challenging. So I made up my mind that I needed to feel that big city environment ever so often. So we would take a road trip down to Washington, D.C. But as the kids got a little older, I really, truly began to love the city of Harrisburg. It was very easy to raise kids here. And for that, I am very grateful, because it's a beautiful city. It's serene. You get anywhere you want to go in 15, 20 minutes. And after we got here, maybe lucky enough for us, there was an emergent Nigerian community. So other Nigerians started to move into Harrisburg, and we really began to feel like this was home. I truly can't say that I have too much that I want to, I didn't do anything heroic. I'm just touched by what Hajar just said. I wish I had something that was anywhere close to what she just described to us. I wasn't courageous, but I do realize that this is the country where I wanted to live. So it becomes very, very important to me to give back to the community in any which way that I am able. I've been very, and I'm going to go there, distressed about the state of politics in America in the last 4 years. It kind of, like I said to my children, when politically the last 4 years, I said to them, I really wonder if this was when we first came into this country, if we would have stayed. It did cross my mind that I'm not sure if this was 1980 when this was happening, if we would have continued to stay here, because we really did make a choice to stay. But because of our conceptions of what America had to offer. But right now, this is our home. This is our country. There are no choices to be made. We're here. That's the way it is. But we never saw what we've seen in the last 4 or 5 years.
It's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking.
It is heartbreaking because we actually made a choice to be a part of this. So it's very challenging, but outside that, we just begin to believe in the goodness. We just have to continue to believe in the goodness of America, that goodness will always triumph, because we know, we've seen what it is. We've seen what a lot of Americans have not seen when democracy completely breaks down and you're in a military government, you're in a dictatorship, and not too many Americans have been exposed to that. So it's very easy for people to want to toy with those kind of situations. So we do hope we all continue to do well. We'll continue to do what is right by the country, and just make sure that everybody who has made the decision to be an American understands what truly it is to be an American. And for me, the most beautiful thing about this country is the fact that it's a country of law and order, and it is welcoming to immigrants of all stripes. And it is my prayer that the country continues to be the same.
And Bamie, thank you for saying that, because that is the American ideal, to be welcoming to people. In fact, it's written on the Statue of Liberty. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to be free. The wretched refuse of your teeming shores, send these, the homeless, tempest-tossed to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door. That is what America stands for. But having people like you here, and you're a great contributor. I mean, what you brought with your son, the attorney, you're an attorney, you're a real estate agent, your husband is a doctor. What you have given, and the fact that the World Affairs Council has done so many of our webinars on COVID-19 is because of your influence. You've touched many lives. You may not realize how many. So with that, thank you, Bamie, thank you. And now we will move on to our founding vice president, a man who actually is not only known in Harrisburg, but around the world. And I'm just going to turn it over now to Dr. Mehdi Noorbakhsh. You have to unmute, Mehdi. That's the virus of Zoom. We don't unmute.
Joyce, what a privilege to be with you for a couple of years with the World Affairs Council. I have a different story in my life, and let me explain to you from with what background I'm coming. I was politically very active in Iran when I was in high school. And every minute there was a chance that I was being arrested in Iran by the SAWAK at that time. And when I got my diploma, I thought, let me do a good thing for my family and for myself, because in Iran I could not, anything you could do politically, your fate was very obvious. You were going to jail, and that was overall, the end of the whole story, or at least for a while. But I didn't want to impose that thing on my family, and especially my mother. I was the only son in the family of 6 children, and I had, of course, 5 sisters, and still, I have 5 sisters. And at the age of 19, I came out of Iran, and I got my diploma, high school diploma. I came out, and from Iran, I knew that I want to go to Texas, because my mentor, Sarah's father, was in Texas, my wife's father, who was very politically known. And I came to Texas. I began, my activity. 3 years later after that, and I have to expose myself, or I have to tell you what. When I saw Sarah, I said, she is my wife. And that was it. And we married. And I went back to Iran one time under the Shah. And I don't know, for a reason, after the 6-7 days in Iran, I was not comfortable. And I came out. I supposed to stay for 10 days. I came out, and on the 10th day, Savak went to our house, to my dad's and
Well, tell
mom's
them what
house.
Savak is. Savak is the to tell them what it is.
Yeah, secret police of the Shah, who was, it was, very brutal, torture, and all of, that is overall, secret agency in any kind of course, authoritarian country. Then I went to Texas, and I began, of course, my political activity. I came out of Iran mostly, if I tell you, I didn't come for my education, I lie to you. I came for my education, but I wanted to go for education somewhere that I could continue my activities, political activities. And I went to, of course, Texas, and I promised, myself two things, and especially when I married my wife, that we, no matter what, we educate ourselves and we educate our kids. And for the first 4 years of our marriage, we were not living together. Sarah was going to medical school in Houston, and I was going to UT in Dallas to finish my engineering. Then I came back, and after the revolution, I changed my major from electrical engineering. I finished my electrical engineering because I don't like to start something and leave it in the middle of air, for something else. I have to finish that. If I don't want to use it, I don't use it. But I have to finish, that thing. Then I went to UT. I went to University of Houston. I finished my master's in international relations. Then I went to UT to finish my PhD. Then I went to Harvard for 3 years for postdoc. Then I came back to Houston. I was working with a couple of oil companies in the area of risk management. I was teaching, but I was not full-time. I didn't want to be full-time yet. I went back to school and I got my MBA, Master of Health Administration. Very much, of course, I loved to educate myself in different areas. And Sarah, of course, was going through residency and all of those things. But the promise was to educate ourselves, to be effective in every society that you are, and to never forget that you have to continue the struggle. And as Joyce knows, I continue. This is overall part of my life. We have 3 children. All of them are educated. Joyce knows. One of them is a full physician now. He's starting from the beginning of November. A license comes in Texas, in Dallas, to practice neuroscience. I'm sorry, neuropsych. Mm-hmm. The other one is in the 4th year of a medical school, and he is coming over this side of the country to go for the residency. And my daughter, Layla, is a nurse practitioner and is working in the Texas Children's Hospital. And my wife is working with UPMC over here, mostly in the area of geriatrics and so on. So when I came to Harrisburg, and I had the choice of 3 universities. And I got the acceptance from the 3 universities. Villanova was one of them. Susquehanna University, in a very small town, was another one. But I came to Harrisburg. We wanted to move Texas. Let's put it this way. We were in Houston. We were sick and tired of the weather. We wanted to come to the East Coast, close to Washington, because I wanted to be active politically in different shape or manner. Then we came over here, and I joined Harrisburg University because it was giving me a chance to build the university. When I was hired to put together 2 departments of the university, general education and e-commerce. And I established both of them. I gave up the e-commerce a couple of years later. And close to about 5 years ago, I gave up Gen Ed. And I'm now teaching courses in the area of international relations, international business at the graduate level. I have to tell you this, I'm very honest about this. I feel that I don't have any country. United States is my home. There is no question about it. But my home is everywhere. I have been with the Iraqis. I have been with the Lebanese, I have been with the Palestinian. Now I am very, very active with the Afghanis. I have connection with the Panjshir, area and, that movement.
Yeah.
And I'm pushing globally for the support of Panjshir and Ahmad Massoud. When his father, before his father was assassinated, I had contact with him, very close, contact. Anyway, I really love this country. I love the state of Pennsylvania. But overall, as I said, I am a citizen of the world, as Joyce is, and everybody is. Everybody overall, is. Wherever, of course, there is a suffering, at our capability, at what we can do. I have to not to miss this. That when I came to Pennsylvania, of course, Harrisburg was a very small country, a small city. I was so lucky that after a couple of 1 or 2 years, I got in touch with Joyce, and Joyce was.
I was lucky.
no, Joyce was a huge inspiration in my life, because I wanted to get active locally, but not locally in that sense. From that location internationally, and that was overall when Joyce proposed the establishment of the World Affairs Council, and I said, Joyce, I will be on your side.
Yeah, you said
and honest to you, Joyce inspired me. Still, Joyce is inspiring me. She's an amazing lady. She's like my sister. There is no discussion about it. I love Joyce because of her faith, because of her leadership. And this is overall my point, Joyce. I wanted to disclose it today. I came to the conclusion, I came to this realization in my, at this age, that if America did not have Black people, perhaps America was not in the shape of the America is today. I'm not talking about slavery. I'm talking about freedom.
Mm-hmm.
Blacks, Malcolm X, Malcolm X, the 1950s, and of course, Luther and others, of course, they really changed America, and Americans and all of those who love freedom, they have to be very thankful to the Black Americans, because that contribution of these people to this country, that inspires me every single day. That is overall what and I have a lot of attachment to these people in this country. When I get a Black student, Black student becomes like my child. I want that person to progress. I want that person to go. And during my whole life, I have a lot of sons and daughters, and they are in contact with me. Anyway, Joyce, thank you. Thank you for giving me this opportunity as a sister, as a leader for the World Affairs Council, and to sit among many people. Of course, nobody can top Hajar's of course the story, but I was a little bit on the side, and unfortunately I cannot go back to Iran because of my political activism. I don't know how many of you know that there is a new platform. It's called Clubhouse. Have you heard about the Clubhouse?
You told us about it.
Yeah. It's international at the moment, and there are a lot of conferences. And we started a session over there close about 4 days ago on the transition to democracy. And there were a couple of university professors from Iran, a couple of from outside, and 2-3 people who were organizing it every week. And we were into the 3rd week that the Iranian secret agency called the kids in Iran who were organizing it, that if you don't stop it, that's done. And that was a type of a scholarly forum, and close to about 600-700 people were participating in every class. We don't stop it. We of course continue it in different shape or manner. But overall, this is my story. Unfortunately, Yeah, I cannot, go back, and that I'm over here. I'm stuck, of course,
Well-
on the side of Joyce.
Right. Well, yes. Well, Mehdi, you have, and truly, Mehdi has been such a support for this organization for many of us. So we thank him, and for many students. So Mehdi, thank you so much. And we still have a whole lot more work to do as a team.
Absolutely, Joyce. Absolutely, Joyce. If I just came from Washington, that was the reason I came late, and I have a couple of guests. I stay for another 10 minutes.
That's fine.
And if you allow me, yeah, I can.
That's fine. We understand.
I just wanted, to tell all of you guys, you inspire me. I love you as sisters and, sisters and, brothers. We are into this together. It's a noble cause, and we'll stay together for the rest of the thing that, we have to do. I'm sorry.
Good. Thank you very much, Dr. Mehdi Noorbakhsh. And now another lady who's just joined our organization, but is already making a powerful impact. She's come in and she's shaking things up, but she's also making a powerful impact just on throughout our whole state on what she is doing personally and professionally. So with that, Gerline Alarar, would you join us, please?
Absolutely.
Yeah, Gerline, come on in.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Make sure you unmute. Make sure you unmute, Gerline.
And do you know, Joyce, what? Gerline talks so nicely.
She's beautiful.
I always I become jealous after she talks. I say, God, one day can I talk like like this lady?
All right, let's let Gerline talk. Go ahead, Gerline.
Okay, I'm sorry, it doesn't happen. Okay.
Thank you so much for this wonderful introduction, and I cannot say enough how grateful I am to have this opportunity to speak to the people of Harrisburg and beyond, through Facebook and through Zoom. So I'm from Haiti, and I can't talk about my journey to Pennsylvania without speaking about my father's journey, because if it weren't for him taking the journey here, I wouldn't be here myself. So my father left Haiti when I was 7 months old on a very flimsy boat to Miami. He spent several days on the boat, and many times they all thought they were gonna die because none of them knew how to swim, and any waves, any situation, the boat could have flipped and they could all have perished. But fortunately, they made it to Miami. My father was detained for several weeks and then released in the custody of a priest who sent him to Brooklyn, New York, where my father lived for 13 years as an illegal immigrant. So, living in clandestinity, not being able to travel. And finally, in 1986, through the amnesty, the Reagan amnesty, he was able to obtain a green card. At that time, I was 13 years old, and the plan was for us to meet in Haiti so that we can take some pictures and document a father-daughter relationship, so that when the time would come for him to file on my behalf, we would be able to be approved. Unfortunately, I had my own story of being an illegal immigrant, because I had been smuggled into French Guiana at the age of 9. And although I was able to go to school in French Guiana, which is the French department overseas, if I traveled outside of the French territories, I would not have been able to come back. So it was gonna take an additional 10 years for us to finally meet in Haiti and take those pictures. So he filed on my behalf. We documented a father-daughter relationship with this man I had just met. And on February 24, 1997, I came here through Philadelphia International Airport with a 10-year green card in tow. And that is a great fate. All my life, I've wanted to live in America. And not just because I was from Haiti, not just because I knew I was illegal when I was living in French Guiana. That didn't really weigh on me because I was still able to get a scholarship. I was still able to attend university. I was still able to obtain a master's degree in clinical psychology and psychopathology. But living in France as a Black woman was very difficult. And the images that we saw in France in television and cinemas of Black women were either as a prostitute, cleaning woman, or drug addict. The only time we saw a positive image of a Black woman, besides Oprah Winfrey, she was actually American or British. So they were sending this message that we don't need powerful Black women in France. You want to be successful, you gotta go to America. And I was very much aware of the struggle and the path that Dr. Martin Luther King had set for Black people. We didn't really know, and I say we, as students in France, we didn't understand the full struggle. We didn't understand what African Americans were actually going through in America. We just thought it's the land of opportunity. This is the American dream. And if I go to America, I can be like Oprah.
Right.
And so coming to America was wonderful. The first thing I realized in America was that despite the fact that my parents were not attorneys, I wasn't rich. I didn't have a law firm that was waiting for me to inherit. Like they told me in France, they said, you can't be a lawyer. Your father, you don't even know your father. Your mother is a cleaning lady. You can't be a lawyer. When I came to America, what I heard was, if you work hard enough, yes, you can be a lawyer. But you do have that accent though. You're gonna have to work on that. So I knew in America, what I wasn't able to do in France, I was gonna be able to do that. And so I would say that my greatest triumph being in America was to become a licensed attorney. It was my lifelong dream. I was told I was never gonna be able to do that. And coming here, I was actually able to do that. And for that, I will be forever grateful. One of the questions that you asked Dr. Davis was, what is the greatest challenge or obstacle we faced once we were in Pennsylvania? Well, it's the language. The language was the greatest challenge for me. I had to transition. I think Hagir mentioned that. I actually learned English for several years before I came here, but I learned the British English. And I had to transition from what I learned was shall we go to the cinema?
We don't talk like that here.
You want to go to the movies?
Right.
So just learning how, just understanding the American accent, being understood.
Yes.
That was a challenge. The other challenge is racism. Yeah. Because obviously coming here, I had this idea that racism really didn't exist. But I soon discovered that, some of the issues that we had learned about when we were learning American history were still going on. And so there's that fear of being othered. But overall, it was worth the journey. It was worth being here. And my advice to other immigrants is to learn to speak and understand English. That's a very important step to feel more confident in the country. The other thing is work on your credentials. If you came here with credentials from your country, make sure that you get them certified so you don't have to start from scratch. And it's always good to try to get a degree from here because they will always be given more credit and more validity. And lastly, my advice is for our Caucasian brothers and sisters. The exercise that the World Affairs Council, and especially through Dr. Davis, has given us this evening as immigrants is to rethink about how did we get here? How did we get to Pennsylvania, but how did we get to the United States? I urge my Caucasian brothers and sisters to do the same. Go back to your family members. Go as back as you need to find out where you came from, because you did not come from here.
That's right. And there was a struggle.
Exactly. Just like I came, just like my father came, looking for a better life, risking his life, you will find that your ancestors did the same.
That's true.
And perhaps through that exercise, you will develop a better and greater tolerance, not only for immigrants, for everyone who doesn't look like you. And with this, I say thank you.
And with this, I'm going to give you a good American response. Amen. Amen, amen. Thank you, Gerline. And you can see why Gerline is such an asset for our region. She hasn't, we can't even begin to tell you what she's doing in the social justice arena to help because of the work that she's doing and how she's helping basically people who are victims of hate crimes and all. I mean, she and new immigrants, she is putting her skills to work in our community. So thank you, Gerline. We're going to hear a whole lot more of you, right? So thank you. So now let's move to another part of the world, and we're going to ask Suchi Govil to join us. Suchi, welcome.
Thank you, Joycey, and thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. And I don't know if I have anything left to say, but really all the stories that I have heard till now, they are very, very inspiring. And it feels, I don't know what I should say, but it is really very interesting to know the stories of all the different people who have come to United States. And I find it very fascinating that there is so much in common for all the different people who have come from different countries, that we all have this feeling that United States has been very, very welcoming to all of us. And it has been very appreciative of people who are hardworking, people who are ready to do the right thing. And I do agree with what everyone else said here. I would like, very quickly just try to talk about here in terms of, I come from India, and in India, the importance of education, like when I was growing up, the importance of education was very, very high. And all the parents, they were like, we call it as the great Indian middle class, and they did not have that many means and resources, but in spite of that, they all like to, came together to make sure that their kids get very good education. And in that education, one important thing is the values that we get from our culture and the beliefs that are instilled in us. One small thing that I would like to mention here is that uh, we, like here, when I talk about the Indian community, we always call our country as our mother, Mother India, our motherland. And in Indian values, we are taught that if you are born in the country, that is your mother of birth. But for some reason, if you move to another country, that is still your mother, the mother who is raising you. And at all cost, you have to make your mother proud. So you have to do things and activities to give back to the community, to do the right things to make your motherland proud. So that is the kind of belief most of the Indian community feels. If I talk about like how I came here, it was more related to the job. So I came here with my husband, and he got a job here. So I came with him, and we came as we had a skilled professional visa. So we came through that. And I would just like to mention a small thing here is that uh, I and my family, or many of my community members, when we talk about like coming to the country, we really did not face that much of any kind of discrimination or harassment or any such thing in terms that I can say that, these were the things that happened. So that is something very kind, and of the people that they welcomed us with open arms. We also believe that the country has a very good law and order, and we want to be in line with the law and order and do the right things. So what just I would like to wind up and say that here I'm representing the Power Women group.
Yeah.
And the Power Women, they are a non-profit organization trying to help anyone who needs any kind of financial support or advice. Also, they help the victims of domestic abuse, and any person who wants any kind of help, whether it is food or shelter or any advice, the Power Woman is there to help them. The small advice that I would like to give to the younger generation is that it is very important to work hard, and it is very important to be appreciative of the means and resources that we have, and do not take anything for granted. Maybe you have not seen the struggle that your parents or your grandparents went through to build what you are getting, but don't take it for granted and be very appreciative of what you are getting.
Suchi, that is such words of wisdom. That I am so glad, absolutely right. To the younger people, realize how you got the life you have because of the hard work and dedication. But I also want to join you in saying a wonderful word about Power Women. One of our board members, Kalpana Dopalapudi, is one of the founders of and the leaders of that organization. And we have embraced Power Women because we want to help you do the great work you're doing. And again, this is one of the groups that the Indian community here is very strong and very much a contributor to our region. So we just want to thank you for joining us, Suchi, and keep up what you're doing.
Thank you, Joyce. Thank you so much.
And now we will turn, I think we're at the point now where we will turn to, I think, what has to be one of the most important people we're going to talk to tonight. Not that you all are important, but with what is going on in Afghanistan now, our attention is definitely on that country. And I think we're going to be having to open our arms as a community to welcome our Afghan brothers and sisters when they come to our country. So Nader Shavak, would you please join us and tell us your story? Because we really have to begin getting ready to stand with those refugees who are going to be coming to Pennsylvania. Nader, please join us.
Good evening, everyone. As you mentioned, my name is Nader Shafak. I will start with my childhood. I was born and raised in Kabul, capital of Afghanistan. I finished school since I was born, and the time I started realizing what's going on around me, who is who in my life. Beside having all those good people around me, I had a bad noise of explosions, firearms, shooting. And it has been 40 years and it's still going. I finished school, and then before joining the US military in Afghanistan in 2010, I was an EMS with the ambulance project, was funded by the Norwegian Red Cross. And I had like 2 months of English course that I took, and that lead me to get the job with the US military as a linguist or cultural advisor. I worked with them from 2010 till 2014, and that was the reason I moved to United States. And on that time I had 2 kids. Of course, I was married, and now I have 3. The third one, he was born here in 2017. I'm sorry, I might just go back and forth with my life.
Right. I was just thinking your son may be a president one day, but go ahead.
He is so active and smart, and hopefully, I mean, I'm not really pushing them to be like president or vice president, but I'm trying to push them to be a good and valued a part of this great community in the United States. Whatever they do, I just want them to be helpful and positive part of the community. So as I said, my entire life has been in war, and everyone is familiar with that in Afghanistan, still going on. Since I moved to United States, the first time I was accepted as a resident in Albuquerque, New Mexico. That's where I moved. I lived there for 7 months, but I was resettled in the wrong neighborhood, which it was all about drug, gunshot. And I can't imagine how I lived all those 7 months with my wife and kids. And then since my cousin was living here in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, I contacted him and I said, how was it there? He said, it's good. There's job, life, everything is fine. And then I decided to move here. So I just had a yard sale and then took my kids, drove from New Mexico to here. And since then, I have been living here in Pennsylvania. It's a great state. From A to Z, everything has been well for me. And I really did not struggle with anything in my life in Pennsylvania. But just one thing that I want to mention to the newcomers, and this is my advice. Of course, most of them would be with the kids and wife, so they would be a family. They need to find a good neighborhood. America is one of the greatest countries in the world. Peace, freedom, everything is going well, but it doesn't mean all places are good for the families. No, there are still bad places, bad neighborhood. The first thing they need to think about is the neighborhood. When I moved to Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, in 7 months, I lived in North Front Street. There's a building called River Plaza. From that side this way, everything was fine. But right beside from the second street that way, nothing was good. It was pretty much same as Albuquerque, New Mexico. Still, I was in the wrong neighborhood. And then I ended up moving to Carlisle, lived there for 4 years, and then moved to Mechanicsburg. Now I live here, I own my house, and the neighborhood is good, school is good, and I'm happy, family is happy, and life is happy. But my mind is just busy with what is going on in Afghanistan. I will just give a little bit information about what's going on in Afghanistan. It was something unexpectedly. Taliban took over the government, and now they have control over 95% of Afghanistan. They have started killing people, torturing, and that's what their culture is. That's what their religion is. They do not represent any of the existing religion or culture or humanity at all. Only thing they were taught was killing people, beheading, beating. And that's what is going on right now in Afghanistan. And I'm worried about all my family stranded back there, and same my wife. Nobody has the right to speak or ask for their right. And everything is messed up there. There is no job, no economy, no education, no human rights, no woman's right. Whatever they want, they rule that law. And that's the law nobody accepted. And those are the things that's going on in Afghanistan. And as you know, we're expecting around 130,000 people to resettle in the United States. Some of them came through the SIV program, some of them through the other visas, P1, P2, some of them through the humanitarian parole, but there are still some people that they were just evacuated without documents and they would be resettled. I hope that they go through like really good screening and background checks, so make sure they are the people that who has the right to live in this country.
Yeah, because the word that ISIS might sneak in, you know, or Taliban might sneak it, right?
Yes,
Right.
there have been some of them that they were detained in some countries, in Germany and Italy, and I believe in one of the other countries as well, in European countries. I haven't heard here in the United States. They probably don't tell anyone because these kind of kept secret. I'm hoping that they all get arrested and put in jail so they do not mess up the peace and the safety of the people here in the United States or any other place in the world.
Sure. Nader, how many families is your family expected to come? How many families are coming to Pennsylvania?
Not my family. My family, they're still back in Afghanistan, same as my wife's, but there are some other Afghans who live in Carlisle and Mechanicsburg area. They're expecting their family members to come to Pennsylvania. I believe there is around 10 families to resettle in the Harrisburg and Carlisle area. But there is around 2,000 people who have been resettled in Philadelphia. But most of those people that are in other states, they're still in the military bases and they're waiting for their document processing.
Got it. Now, so, Jennifer, one of our audience person is asking, what can we as a community begin doing to prepare to be welcoming for Afghan refugees?
I really appreciate that. My experience when I first arrived in the United States, the first thing I was expecting from the community, from whoever I was facing, was to show me the beginning of a new life path. It's not about the economy. Of course, whoever comes to the United States legally, they can start working right away. But there are the ways how to start it. This is something really important. And at the beginning, I believe they need with some like house supplies, that they will start like having those things. With the food, I don't think they will really need that, because there's like food bank and of course some other sources as well. The second thing is, as other attendants they mentioned, is the language. Most of those people arrive from Afghanistan, they never worked with the US government or any other organization. Most of them, they don't know anything about English. They never studied. They probably know at the very beginning level. So language is another thing.
And education, I would say in some cases is a problem, right? Because a lot of people coming are not highly educated, right?
That is true. We will face with some people that they never been to school.
Oh, wow.
Like never. They can't even write their name.
Yeah.
Or they can't even pronounce their name, like in writing, to spell it. I mean, there will be a lot of challenges, but hopefully as a community, we would be here to help them. And
this is the opportunity, I think, for Jennifer and for others to know that the International Resource Center, which is run by Dr. Truong Phuong, is really gearing up to try to provide the services needed. The World Affairs Council has pledged its partnership with Dr. Truong Phuong and with Nadir and the Afghan community that's here to try to provide what we can. And one of the things that I do want us to gear up for is to prepare for the young people, so that we help acculturate them. We perhaps can have some intense program to help them understand what American culture is about as they go into the schools, because that can be very hard for a young person, 12, 13, 14 years old. They need that kind of intense support, to really have a happy life. So
that is true. I agree. The International Service Center, I would say the very important thing that they would focus on would be the translation service.
Yes.
And after that, hopefully, they will be able to help them with the other resources as well. But that's the most important thing, because as I said, I came as a person who knew about the American culture because I worked with the military for 4 years, and I knew most of the things, and same as my wife and my kids. So we did not have that much problem with it. And but the families that we're expecting to resettle, they would be much different, and they need lots of education and information about the community, culture, rules,
right,
lots of things.
Right.
Even I would say you might see people that they wouldn't know to walk on the street or a sidewalk.
Right.
So these are the
I
things
understand. Well, I want to thank you for sharing, and at some point we'll help you to understand why there are those bad neighborhoods. That's part, okay, because that's part of the not so nice side of America. People have been discriminated against and faced problems, and that's why there are those bad neighborhoods. But we're glad you're in a safe place, in a safe neighborhood. And at this point, look, we have already gone over our time, and we could talk for another hour if we were together. We really could. But I'm going to simply say we are going to continue to have these kinds of discussions with different people, and especially with our new friends from Afghanistan when they come. And we are just going to continue to document. We're going to invite people to have individual videos that we will post on our site to talk about their own personal stories. But you guys have really been extraordinarily generous with your time and with sharing deep personal issues that you're facing.
Thank you. And thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak and share my experiences being in Afghanistan, living and moving here, and experience of the life here in the United States. Even though I did not struggle here, but just at the end, I would like to thank you, Mr. Mehdi Nurbaksh, for supporting the resistance group in Afghanistan. And as of now, that's the only group fighting against the terrorism. Even though they're a very small group, they're in just like 3 or 4 villages, but still they are the one who are the only ones fighting against the terrorism, and they did not surrender. They did not give up.
Right.
And I hope Mr. Mehdi could spread this and get more support from.
Well, we're going to probably do a separate program on that very issue.
Sure. That would be very good, and I would really appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
This is not the end of our conversation. We're going to zero in much more on what's going on in Afghanistan, and Dr. Nurbaksh is perfect for that. Well, I'm going to simply echo what Cole, my son, has said as he's been watching this. Thank you to all of our panelists. You guys are remarkable people. And that's one of the reasons I wanted people to hear your stories, just to hear your voices. The kind of people that come in, that face the struggles of life and that make a new home for themselves somewhere are people of incredible resilience, courage, and talent, skills, genius. So with that, I'm just going to say, welcome. We're glad you're here. You're home in Pennsylvania. And
thank you very much.
We will be looking, and say hello to your wife, Nader. She's a lovely.
Sure. Actually, I just let her to participate in a birthday party, so her mind like gets a little bit busy with those things and staying away from all that's going on in Afghanistan. Absolutely. So she was in a birthday party. Unfortunately, she is not here, but I will definitely say hi to her.
That's all right. And let me share one little thing. You don't let her do anything. She does it. Okay.
Exactly.
That's America. That lady does it if she wants to.
I have a lot to say to Nader, but not today. Another day.
Sure, I would be here. Thank you very much.
I know we will. But again, thank you. This is the cultural connections, right? So
yes,
thank you all. We
I'm
love
so happy
you.
being here.
Thank you for coming to Pennsylvania. Goodbye, everyone. All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.